Good morning. My name is Chris Konetsky, and I'm the group publisher here at Business Publications Corporation, which produces the Business Record and DSM Magazine. Jobs, jobs, jobs. I think we can't go to any meeting, any discussion, and not talk to folks about labor and workforce and the issues that come along with that. Workforce was an issue before the pandemic. The challenges have only accelerated over the past few years, and despite a few looming economic clouds and rising interest rates, unemployment has continued to stay low, and employers' appetite for workers still continues to grow. So it's our goal to help you do business better, and you are all the reason that we do what we do. We've got a great panel lined up today to help you sort through what to expect in the labor market as we head into 2024 and beyond. We're going to take a look at salaries. We'll take a look at labor force participation. I know we've got some great panelists today that are going to give you some of that insight that you need to make sure you're running your business right as we head into the future and navigate the labor climate. So before we do have a little bit of fun to do to start things off. Before we dive into the conversation with our panelists, we'd like to recognize this year's Human Resources Professional of the Year and our sponsor, Dentons Davis Brown. The COVID-19 pandemic caused organizations throughout the region to pivot and adapt in order to best care for their employees. The human resources profession has been on the front lines ensuring workforces are safe, healthy, and in the best position to help organizations deal with the vast array, not only of the short-term effects that we navigated at the onset of the pandemic, but of course, now the long tail effects as our workforces have continued to navigate the changing work landscape. The importance of HR professionals to our organizations has never been more clear, and this award is designed to highlight an outstanding HR professional from Central Iowa, not only for their professional accomplishments and contributions to their own company, but also for their impact on the HR profession and their engagement and contributions to the community. Dentons Davis Brown stepped up to the plate during the middle of the pandemic back in 2020 to help us elevate the importance of HR professionals, and they're sponsoring once again today. Dentons Davis Brown is designed to be different, offering more than just legal services. They continue to adapt to the evolving challenges and opportunities of their clients to help them grow, protect, operate, and finance their businesses here in Iowa, the Midwest, and across the globe. Joining us today to tell us a little bit more and to introduce our HR Pro of the Year is shareholder Maggie Hansen. She's a shareholder at Dentons Davis Brown. She's going to tell you a little bit more about Dentons Davis before introducing our honoree. Maggie, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chris, and thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Maggie Hansen, and I'm an employment attorney and partner at Dentons Davis Brown Law Firm. As someone who works with HR professionals every day, I see firsthand the impact they make in the lives of every employee while simultaneously touching almost every aspect of the business. Hiring, pay, benefits, compliance, communications, policy, the list goes on, especially for those in regulated industries like healthcare. At Dentons, we know that attracting, retaining, and managing your workforce is key to achieving your business goals. Our employment attorneys are often regarded for their creative, business-savvy counseling skills and, when it's necessary, results-driven, successful litigation practice. We work side by side with HR professionals and the C-suite, serving as day-to-day legal advisors and supporting human resource teams at every stage of the employment process, from that initial hiring to sensitive termination decisions. Dentons is there for you in the boardroom, helping you strategize cutting-edge employment policies and corporate compliance programs. We draft employment handbooks, policies, contracts. We conduct internal corporate investigations, perform training, and provide counsel during mergers and acquisitions. We also provide counsel during reductions in force, restructuring, and other business activities. Dentons is there for you at the negotiation table, counseling and representing management in traditional labor matters, negotiating collective bargaining agreements, and assisting in all union-related matters. Dentons is there for you in the courtroom, with extensive experience litigating all employment-related claims, allegations of discrimination, retaliation, failure to pay wages, breach of contract, breach of fiduciary duty, and much, much more. It's through our work that our admiration for HR professionals continues to grow each day. They regularly face unexpected challenges with tight deadlines and tough personalities, all the while still accomplishing what they actually plan to do that day. I do want to give a quick shout out to our own HR director, Katie Yohe, who is constantly pivoting and working behind the scenes to get it all done. In my practice, I often work with healthcare employers and HR teams, and there have been inconceivable challenges in the healthcare industry. Everything from hiring and retention to responding to the COVID-19 pandemic and the new legal and regulatory landscape it brought with. I've seen stress, but also incredible resilience. So today I'm proud to present Jessica Meisner of UnityPoint Health with the Dentons Davis Brown HR Professional of the Year Award. Jessica is the Vice President of Human Resources at UnityPoint Health and has a long career in the healthcare business, starting in physician recruiting 20 years ago and steadily working her way up to her current position. In her current role, she is credited with making a major impact on the organization in a number of ways. While at UnityPoint clinics, she implemented new compensation models that were some of the most innovative in the country, focusing on achieving improved quality, better service, and lower cost. In the last 5 years, the organization's workforce has grown by 30% under Jessica's leadership. In addition, she has been a leader with high ethical standards and an eye toward diversity, equity, and inclusivity. She has helped to broaden benefit offerings, including extending parental leave to adoptive parents and offering health and dental benefits to all couples, regardless of gender. She has also helped start UnityPoint's LGBTQ clinics in Des Moines and Waterloo. Jessica has made a tremendous impact on our organization and the HR profession, wrote David Stark, Market President of UnityPoint. All our welcome here is not just a nice tagline. It is backed by her tangible actions. Outside of work, Jessica is involved in the Central Iowa community, including joining Mary Coffin as the first 2 women to serve on the Des Moines Golf and Country Club board after 40 years. Specifically, she has worked with the new HR director at the club to help build a strong department. Dentons Davis Brown, in conjunction with the Business Record, is proud to recognize Jessica Meisner as the 2023 HR Professional of the Year.
Jessica, welcome.
All right, thank you, Maggie, and thank you, Chris. First, I want to say thank you to Denton Davis Brown and the Business Record for honoring this wonderful profession. I feel so blessed to be part of this work and to be in a community that continues to invest in developing a strong workforce. I have incredible colleagues and humbled by their nomination and their kind words, but I get to partner with them to create a culture in which our team members can bring their authentic self to work so they can use all of their talents to deliver the highest quality of care to the communities we serve. I'm truly grateful for the role I serve in and the people I work with. They are simply amazing. I want to also say again, thank you to the Business Record for hosting this event on this important topic and the conversation that we need to have because the pandemic highlighted, as Chris mentioned, more than ever how critical a stable workforce is to ensuring that we have a thriving community, and it takes all of us to partner together to tackle our workforce shortage issues. We have strong education and partnerships with our colleges, so we need to ensure we're having those conversations so we can produce the right skill sets and create pathways for all to fill some of our workforce gaps. So with that, I want to say thank you to our speakers today, and I am looking forward to this conversation. I'll turn it back over to you, Chris.
Thanks so much, Jessica, and congratulations again to Maggie and Dentons Davis Brown for recognizing our 2023 HR Pro of the Year. If you got a chance to get to meet Jessica just a little bit there, just a taste, we'll have a story about Jessica in the Business Record coming up here in a couple of weeks. That edition of the Business Record will be all focused on jobs, so you'll have some of the takeaways from today's conversation as well, and some additional coverage to help you again continue to understand what's going on in this space. So congratulations again, Jessica. Now, we've got just less than an hour, and we're going to be, I promise you, barely able to scratch the surface of solving the jobs challenges for everybody across the community. So let's go ahead and get things started. My fellow moderator today is senior staff writer Michael Crum. He's going to ask the first question, and I'm sure he's going to ask a number of follow-ups along the way. But before he does, I want to give a brief introduction of him. He joined our team in April of 2020 and is formerly the editor of the Ames Tribune. He worked for a number of years at the Associated Press, we're awfully lucky to have him, somebody who's so experienced, an experienced reporter on our team, working for us and working for you all, covering the community. He's been covering economic development since he joined us. And of course, workforce is a key aspect of that. He's going to be leading the discussion. I'll pop in from time to time, perhaps with a follow-up question, but Michael, it's up to you. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you to everyone who agreed to sit in on the panel today. We're looking forward to the conversation. Joining us today on the panel are Almardi Abdalla, the Vice President of Family and Workforce Programs for the Oakridge Neighborhood Services, Kathy Anderson, Division Administrator of Business Engagement at Iowa Workforce Development, Dave Leto, the CEO of the Palmer Group, Peter Orazem, Professor of Economics from Iowa State University, and Jenae Sikkink, Senior Vice President of Talent Development for the Greater Des Moines Partnership. And again, thank you all for joining us today. As Chris and I have said, we're going to be asking some questions, but feel free to engage with your fellow panelists and ask questions if you think of something that you would like to add to the conversation. We're going to start today with a very general first question. And it's really about what we're looking at today is this is a jobs outlook. So we're going to do some forecasting hopefully here. The first question is really, what do you see as the top hiring challenges facing employers in 2024? And Almardi, let's start with you.
Good afternoon all, and thank you, Mike, for allowing us to be here. And I would like also to thank the Business Record for hosting this important event. For me, I believe hiring and retention is one of the challenges facing, have been one of the challenges facing businesses and corporations. And it will be also a challenge going forward into 2024 and beyond. We're seeing fewer skilled job candidates, and we're seeing more companies and corporations looking to hire skillful job candidates. So the supply and demand are not equal at this point, and the struggle will continue for companies to strive for hiring and recruiting talented individuals, and also not only hiring, but also retaining those individuals while being mindful of their overhead costs and being competitive in this environment.
Thank you, Almardi. Dave, let's bring you into the conversation. What do you believe will be a top challenge facing employers next year?
Yeah, thanks again for the Business Record for having us, and congrats to Jessica on a great award. Definitely deserved. It's a very big question. There's been so much change these last 3 years. Employers, employees, going from mostly in person to hybrid, or to all at home, to hybrid, to now companies just really trying to figure out their identity and their culture, really trying to outline their values and who they want to be as an organization, and trying to communicate that to their employees. So I think the biggest challenge is going to be making sure employers are not only communicating who they want to be as an organization to their current staff, but in the hiring piece, making sure they're bringing people into their company they're going to fit that mold. I think hiring went so fast these last 3 years. People were just with such a shortage of talent. We're bringing people at record speed, and I wonder if they maybe would have slowed down and did things a little differently if they were to do it over again. So I think they just need to make sure they have the right people in the right seats in their organization. I think they need to make sure that they're really outlining and identifying who they are as a company, making sure they're setting those expectations with candidates before they hire them. And then they're holding them accountable once they do hire them, who they want to be as a company, and making sure they're getting them on board appropriately.
All right, thank you, Dave. And Jenae, let's bring you into the conversation. What do you see as being a top challenge for employers next year?
Well, thank you, Michael, and thank you to the Business Record for hosting this important conversation today. Additionally, I want to echo congratulations to Jessica. Well deserved, I can tell you that. I think as we look at forecasting for 2024, we're starting to see an increase in creativity when it comes to the talent pool and engaging with future talent. And really, you can break it into three buckets. The first of which is flexibility. Flexibility matters greatly to job seekers, along with professional development opportunities, and plays a vital role in the employee value proposition. And this is something that emerged out of the 2023 Workforce Trends and Occupancy Study that the partnership conducted earlier this year in conjunction with Baton Global and Rework, where we surveyed over 2,000 knowledge workers specifically in the region. And those results showed that employees value flexibility and work-life blend, and they also see the value of working in office to collaborate with teammates and have those formal and informal mentoring opportunities. So I think as employers are looking for 2024, taking a look at the policies that can help support their employees and be employee driven will be a key success indicator for them next year.
And Kathy, thank you for joining us today. What do you see as being a top challenge in 2024 for employers?
Well, thank you, Michael. And I'd echo that Jenae's comment. Thank you to the Business Record for hosting a conversation like this. That's incredibly important. The biggest challenge that employers will face in 2024 is still hiring the sheer number of team members that they'll need to fill open positions. I think this remains more challenging in certain areas of the state. Rural Iowa will have more difficulty probably than in the larger metro areas. I also think that's in certain industries, it's something that we'll want to be watching for sure. Over the last year, there were 11,400 jobs added in Iowa. I'd expect that to continue into the next year. So I think competition for labor is just going to continue absolutely through 2024. I think healthcare will remain a challenging industry for hiring. Certainly, we can talk a little bit more about that, I hope. But it's been interesting because over the last month, we've seen construction pick up in hiring, professional services decrease in hiring. And so I think it's going to be really interesting as we watch industry by industry how that plays out as well.
Okay. And Peter, let's bring you into the conversation. You're going to be looking at this maybe through a different lens than some of the other panelists, but what do you see as a top hiring challenge for employers in 2024?
Well, the biggest problem with Iowa is we went into the pandemic with a relatively old workforce, and it's relatively older workers who disproportionately dropped out of the labor market. And even though labor force participation rates for younger Iowans has increased slightly, it has not increased enough to make up for the loss of older workers. So if you look at labor force participation rates in Iowa, we're less than 0.1% greater than where we were in July of 2019, and the US labor force has increased by 2.6%. Labor demand is still strong. So if you look at job openings in July of 2023, they were 34% higher than they were in the pre-pandemic average, but we only filled about 2/3 of those jobs. So 35% unsuccessful searches in a month, whereas the pre-pandemic average was 10%. It's a lot harder to find workers if you don't have enough workers to go around. So labor demand remains strong. Labor supply is a challenge, and we're going to have to find new places to find workers to fill those openings.
You each touched on different topics when we look at workforce in 2024, and we're going to try to spend the next several minutes kind of breaking down some of those different topics. Peter, I'd like to come back to you real quick. From an economist standpoint, are the ongoing fears and discussions of possible recession, are those going to have a big impact on hiring in the future, you think?
Well, I mean, if you have a general slowdown, I think obviously that's going to mean that the rate of job openings is going to decline. But if you have, for example, in Iowa, we're hiring fewer people than we did pre-pandemic per month, but we have more openings per month. If you look at that, the problem is not we don't have enough labor demand. I mean, the problem is we don't have enough labor supply. So you could actually slow down the rate of new job openings and still not have any increase in the unemployment rate because we're not filling all the jobs as it stands.
Okay, and Dave, I want to have you, kind of address that same topic. In dealing with your clients and your customers, are you hearing them talk about fears of recession or a possible slowdown in some sectors and what that might mean for hiring in 2024?
We've been hearing fears of recession for I don't know how long now. It seems like it's just a reoccurring theme, and I think the fear is still out there. But to Peter's comment, given the fact there's not enough people out there, and given their demand for their services, it's really not prevented them from moving forward in hiring, because they know they need the talent. They're talking to their customers, understanding what their demand is going to be here. I mean, now's the time to do that as you're planning for 24, understanding what they need. So, we're still working on over double the amount of positions we did pre-pandemic on an average. It's maybe slowed down just a tad from where it was in 21 and 22, but it's still really, really high. Demand's still really strong. I think there is uneasiness. I don't know if there's absolute fear at this point.
I'm curious, just to stick with you for a minute, Dave.
Sure.
What areas are you seeing the greatest demand?
Yes, I mean, just about everything. So, we've seen, everybody's hearing about the IT layoffs and nationally and some of that stuff. So, but IT demand is still really strong. We're seeing a huge demand for customer service personnel. You look at accounting. I've heard a stat. I don't know if it's true. Peter may be able to confirm this or not, but I've heard we're graduating one accounting grad for every 6 openings. So as I look across our company, engineers, I have a son that's becoming an electrical engineer at Iowa State right now. He is going to have a great career. So you look at all the engineering jobs, digital marketing, huge need. They recognized Jessica for HR. There's been an increased need in HR positions here. So right now we're seeing demand across all of our sectors, which is a good thing for our business, of course. But I wouldn't say there's just one pocket that's sticking out.
Michael, may I add a regional perspective here?
Absolutely, please do.
Thank you very much. I would say we have an economic development team here at the partnership who goes out and meets with businesses in our 11 county region on a daily basis. And what we're hearing through those business calls, we're not hearing much when it comes to layoffs and concerns for hiring in next year. And really, when you look at the regional economy, it's fairly resilient due to our industry mix: insurance, food, manufacturing, government, agriculture. These are industries that can weather the ups and downs, and we have a strong pipeline of projects to strengthen yet even more our regional economy. Additionally, we've talked a little bit about college students. So I just wanted to add that we have data from a national firm called Lightcast that indicates that we retain 70% of the young adults who grew up in the area in Greater Des Moines. Additionally, we surveyed our college interns that participated in our DSM Intern Connection program over the course of the summer, and over 78% of those students in the program were likely or very likely to relocate to Des Moines for a job offer after college, which is fantastic. And 74% were likely to accept a position with their internship employer, which outpaces the national average. So I think there's some great emerging pockets here, and we're feeling that DSM is above the national average on many fronts.
Kathy, I'd like to bring you into the conversation. And you can kind of maybe pick up where either Dave or Jenae left off. But when you're talking about sectors or areas where there's greatest demand, you mentioned healthcare. What are you seeing along that front?
Sure. Yeah, I was actually I was thinking about that as Jenae was speaking about, just the strength of our industries, both within the regional area, but also statewide. Healthcare really, I think, regardless of what happens to the economy at large, healthcare will remain to be one of those industries that will need some, I would say, some recruitment TLC for years to come. Of our top 5 industries that or open positions that we survey regularly, that 4 of those are within healthcare. It's registered physicians, it's physicians, it's registered nurses, it's, really that industry alone. There will be open positions there for a long time. And I think that's something that it's important for all of us to kind of keep our eye on that one, particularly. And I think there are some strategies if we get to that where we can start building that pipeline. But that's going to be, I think, one to watch statewide for quite a while, both within the rural areas and the larger metros.
Kathy, I'm going to stick with you for just a second, getting back to the topic about the economy and what some of those conversations may be and how, if there's, ongoing concerns about possible slowdowns or recession, what are you hearing and what impact could that have on hiring next year?
I would say there's just been a very slight uptick. We just announced numbers today, new labor market information numbers today were released. Really slight uptick in the unemployment rate, but really, I think almost every employer is still looking to hire. They still have many open positions. They're looking creatively at ways that they can continue to retain top talent. That's going to be incredibly important as they're still trying to fill those open positions. They know that their team members who are raving fans of the organization and who believe in the culture, those will be some of their best advocates out in the field as they're looking to fill those positions. Additionally, I would just add that within Iowa Workforce Development, we have a team. It's a new division that I'm leading. It's the Business Engagement Division, and we have a team of business engagement consultants who meet with employers on a regular basis. We've met with almost 5,000 this year, and we continue to hear not only that they have roles to fill, but that they're looking creatively to fill some of those. So some of that might include looking at populations that maybe they don't typically hire within. Maybe it's those with disabilities or veterans who are returning, or even maybe thinking about hiring, younger teenagers, 17, 18-year-olds, maybe who don't have the same skill set that they had previously coming into a certain role, but they're looking to train them within the organization, or thinking about apprenticeships or work-based learning. I think really everything is going to be on the table in terms of looking at opportunities for next year.
And I'm going to come back and we'll kind of go around the horn here and talk about strategies and things that people can do to really help fill that talent pipeline. But Almardi, I want to talk to you real quick about what do you see with the folks that you work with? What do you see as being the biggest need for skill development, and what areas are you seeing the biggest demand?
The biggest demand has been in the areas of manufacturing, entry level. And I think most of the folks that I see, they lack some of the skills to get these jobs, and they won't get them the economy or the market is not the way it is. But employers are willing to invest more in training and even some offer some type of classes inside to kind of help upskill those job candidates to keep them. And then, but one of the issues that we're seeing is you see the same client that who applied for this company about 6 months ago is coming back to apply for a different one. Why? Because the benefit there is, the benefit package there is better, the salary is better, there is more flexibility for them. And now also they are in the position of being kind of aware of the dynamics of the work. Like, so then this is one of the issues that actually facing the employees that I talk with on a regular basis is the idea of, or the concept of retaining those workers, and also doing whatever they can to help support them so that they can remain on those jobs. True story, one of a good friend of mine graduated with a degree of mechanical engineering for about 2 years ago. Within this period, he have had 3 different jobs. and now he ended up in Seattle working for Boeing. And when I asked him why you made the decision to move out to Seattle, leaving the state, and he said, first, it's Boeing. And he told me I get to work with highly experienced and well-trained engineers. And also he told me the benefit package is amazing. And also, I guess, like the fact that I'm going to be working for Boeing. And so then different job candidates have different visions and different aspirations and different also needs. And there is no one size fits all solution to this. And I think it's kind of more like a case by case basis. Some they're like the flexibility, some like overtime, some don't like the long hour shifts that they actually have to work nowadays and they're forced to work. And so then we see all of these dynamics coming to play and making it harder for employer actually to manage all of these aspects. And most of the actually employers that job candidates that I see are immigrants and refugees with limited skill sets and also limited English language. And it takes long time for them to learn the language and also start learning a trade or being in any type of pathway for a long-term career in one of the needed industries here in the state.
Okay, several of you mentioned flexibility. And there was a comment in the chat, and it was one of the questions that I was going to ask, so we're going to jump into that. How has return to office, whether it's a mandate or encouragements or whatever they might be, how has the return to office movement affected hiring and labor? Jenae, let's start with you.
Yes, great question. I'd say the trend for Greater Des Moines is return to office. Our workforce trends occupancy study results indicate that talent wants to be in the office and they see the benefits of that. One of the key findings that I'm most excited about out of that study is that Generation Z is the generation that values being in the office the most. So this is our future talent or early talent. So I think that's great news for business leaders. And then additionally, the Census Bureau has recently shared data that speedier commute times have increased compared to pre-pandemic times. And so I think this is great from our region's perspective because you can almost get anywhere in 20 minutes or less. So we're very encouraged by that.
And Dave, what are you hearing from the folks that you work with about return to office and the need for flexibility?
Yeah, I think the return to office and the flexibility are two completely different things. You know, and I think that's an important distinction that companies need to make. But that flexibility piece is absolutely has been so instrumental in how I believe most employers have adapted to that in this market from what we've seen. You know, even if people are working 5 days a week in the office, having that flexibility to take care of personal needs while being accountable and taking care of their business as well. But definitely to echo what Jenae said, we're definitely seeing the back to office setup or the routine. Hybrid still prevalent, but it's more 3 days a week in than not. And then there's very few remote jobs that we're seeing. So when we get candidates calling us and saying, I will only work full remote, we have a harder time finding them positions these days. And of course, that wasn't the way it was here a few years ago. So definitely things have changed to the back to office deal, and that seems to be continuing.
Michael, may I add something here?
Oh, yep, please do.
Sorry. Thank you. I would also add from the employer perspective, as you take a look at flexibility, you know, this might have been something that wasn't in your employee handbook or your policy guide prior to the pandemic, but now employers are really taking a look at that flexible or that work-life blend policy. And what we're seeing is that employers are getting this right in the region. Over the past year, we've seen an increase in satisfaction with work-life blend policies, which is great because that shows that they're putting employees first, listening to their employees.
And Kathy, in your role with Iowa Workforce Development and business engagement, what are you hearing from companies about return to office and how that is affecting their ability to recruit and retain?
Yeah, they really are striving to get that mix right. I'd kind of echo what Dave said and what Jenae said. It really is about evaluating not just the individual role. Of course, there are some roles in manufacturing and healthcare specifically where some services where you just can't do that remotely. Of course, most people understand that. But for those roles and for those companies where flexibility, where they can be creative and they can be flexible, I think those are the companies that will continue to see winning in the kind of the culture or the talent competition. I would say in addition to that, I'd echo what Jenae said too, is we really are finding those young professionals are seeking the professional development, they're seeking the mentorship. So if you get that right, if you get that mix right, it's not just about the younger team members who want that flexibility or those hybrid types of roles. I think everybody's looking for that ability to manage their job and manage their life, and do that to the best extent that they can in both of those areas. And to the extent that employer can help team members do that, they're going to win. But I would definitely caution against thinking it's just the younger team members who want that flexibility. They really want that mentorship and they want to learn from those who are seasoned in their field.
Peter, I saw you nodding your head in agreement with some of the things that Kathy was just saying, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are.
Well, the research suggests that if you're allowed to work away from home, that is a benefit, particularly for women and married women with children in terms of labor supply. And so that's, if you're trying to figure out ways of trying to expand labor supply, I think being more flexible in terms of hours requirements and in-office requirements, I think is one of the ways to try to become more competitive in what is a really tight labor market in Iowa. It's other places though that have really, I think, been hit a lot harder in terms of back to office requirements. And so in places where office space was extremely expensive and where they shut down the economy relatively more aggressively than in Iowa, and I'm thinking New York City and San Francisco as two examples, foot traffic in the downtown areas has really plummeted. And I think you're going to see a real difficulty in trying to reestablish back to office requirements in those places. In fact, it may be in the firm's interest to cut back on how much office space they need in those really expensive areas, because they may find that the number one, the commutes are very long in those places because you have to be fairly far away from the city center in order to find affordable housing. And you may just have happier workers if they don't have to come in every day.
Marty, let's bring you in on this topic about flexibility, return to office, and kind of how the return to office may be affecting recruitment and retention. What are your thoughts?
I think it'll add salt to injury. I think most of those who are coming back may not stay with their companies because they may find better offers out there. And I think we've seen it, employees or job candidates usually shop around for better options in terms of flexibility, benefit package, and all of these aspects, which should make it harder for employers actually to hire new folks. They might end up cutting down or downsizing, and that might also affect their competitiveness down the road. I feel that will have a big impact on this job market, because you have fewer candidates out there, and now you have companies opening and needing more candidates or workforce to their company or corporations. I think it will have that kind of impact.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Chris opened the discussion today by saying jobs, jobs, jobs. You can't really go anywhere without talking about workforce and labor. Another topic that's really popular is, of course, AI. And I'm just wondering, that's, another thing that you just can't really talk to anybody about without it coming up in the conversation. I'm wondering how AI and those conversations are being integrated into workforce development. And Jenae, I'm going to circle back to you on this to start. What are you hearing?
Yes, great question, great topic. We recently held the Future World of Work Summit in October, and we featured two professors from Drake University, Chris Snyder and Christopher Porter, who are experts in artificial intelligence. So if you're really looking for experts, I would encourage you to reach out to them. They're awesome. But one of the things that we're having conversations about and trying best to determine is how do you keep humans in the artificial intelligence conversation, right? AI is not going to be the end all be all. We know that there still has to be some level of discernment. And so maintaining that human aspect in the loop, I think, will be really helpful. So from an employer perspective, it might be utilized in order to reduce and increase in efficiency, if you will, in terms of your operations day to day, very low, meaningful tasks. But then also at a higher level, you still need that person interaction to make sure that artificial intelligence is correct. And so that's where we're hearing employers start to have those questions.
Dave, in the conversations that you're having, is AI part of those conversations and how it will be integrated in the workforce in the future?
Yeah, I think a lot of companies are looking at it. I know we are, but I can't say we've just gone all in to change how we do business. To what Jenae said, I mean, the efficiencies I think it can create to supplement the work that people are doing are there and are real. I know some of our people are playing around with the Chat GPT and looking into that, and maybe when they write an email, putting it in there and see how that might change it. So I think there's some things to do there. We're looking at it from how we get candidates into our system and how can AI potentially help us be more efficient there. So we're doing some research on this topic right now. But we're a relational business. We need people to talk to people, to meet with people in order to make our business go around. And so that's not going to change. That's going to be our focus. Is human-to-human interaction and contact is far too important to let a bot change the fundamental way we do business.
And Kathy, your screen went blank, so I'm not. Oh, there you are. I was going to go to you next on this conversation. What are your thoughts on AI and how it's being discussed, not only in your office, but maybe in the businesses that you work with?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this particular topic as well. And Jenae, your Future World of Work Summit was fantastic. We talked about things in that AI session that I hadn't really thought about before. But I think each of us as individual professionals, we certainly want to up our game every day, right? And if some of that includes AI, and if we can incorporate that in ways that help us to be either more efficient or to do a better job, we want to do that. I would say, take that exponentially to every team member across your organization as an employer. Maybe that's a great question for an employer to ask is, your role better, how you do the work that you do. Are there ways that we as a company or we as an employer could investigate or try or pilot some particular AI technologies? One of those, I think anything that could be, automated or streamlined, those are certainly the first kind of low-hanging fruit opportunities. I think employers would be really wise to ask their team members, how do you see this? How do you see where this could maybe help your individual productivity and scale that from a company perspective?
So I'm going to stick with you, Kathy, because I'm curious. You mentioned the event that the partnership had, and you said there were some conversations that made you think about AI in ways that you didn't before. What are those things that you discussed that you hadn't thought of before?
So one of my things is really that intersection between what can we do and what should we do? And I think we've all seen some examples of that in the marketplace. But, I think as you look at individual roles and individual contributors and leaders across an organization, those are important questions and important conversations to have. And I'm excited about, what we'll see. I think there are going to be places where, maybe it's a mess, but certainly there are some real organizational wins I think that companies can gain as they explore all kinds of new technologies, whether that's AI or, or other technologies that continue to just get better and better month by month. It used to be year by year, but now it's month by month. Those technologies are getting better. So I think that's going to be really interesting over the next year.
Okay. And Almardi, I'd like to bring you in on this part of the conversation.
Sure.
You and I have had conversations in recent weeks about the new Teen Tech Center and how that's going to provide access to technologies that maybe some young people haven't had before to help them kind of guide them on some possible career paths. But so when it comes to AI, what are you hearing and how do you see that affecting the workforce and workforce development in the years to come?
I believe AI is the future. And I think the same was said about e-commerce when it first started. And at that time, Amazon was the AI of the retail industry. And now actually AI is going to be the new Amazon for all industries. And I think companies that are investing early on and exploring early on this technology will reap the benefit down the road. That's my belief in AI. And if you visit your local retail store or a grocery store like Walmart, Costco, so you see more machines than human cashiers. And I think this will continue to grow in other industries as well. The Teen Tech Center, actually, the purpose is just to give these kids exposure to technology early on, and then also make them aware that there is more that they can do. You don't have to be like your dad who worked in these long shifts in companies or in the service area. There is other options for you. And then we'll show them ways to explore these new technologies and these new possibilities. Starting with animation, basic coding, and also exploring what local companies are doing with this technology, and maybe also have them placed in different internships, because Oakridge host or manage an annual summer youth employment program. And I think we have partners like John Deere and others, and they will be willing actually to help us connect these young kiddos to these new possibilities and career aspiration, that if they would like to go that road. They like games, they like to play games, but then we'll show them also you can actually create your own games. And then from there they will see possibilities that they never thought about. And that's actually the purpose of this Teen Tech Center here at Oakridge.
And Peter, I want to bring you in quickly on the AI conversation. How's that going to affect the workforce in the future, do you think?
We're almost 2 years now of monthly 3 million plus unfilled vacancies. It's hard to believe that you're not going to have an incentive to use artificial intelligence to try to come up with other ways of producing product when you cannot find enough workers. And we recently had a really interesting lecture by Tyler Cowan at Iowa State on the economics of artificial intelligence. And I think if you wanted to, you could dig that recording of that on the Iowa State Lectures website. But one of the things he made clear was his impression was that college students don't have to worry about artificial intelligence. Their competition will be people who use artificial intelligence better than they do. And so we need to actually start incorporating problem sets and projects that use artificial intelligence in our regular coursework, because it's inconceivable that you're not going to be using those tools on the job and very soon.
So I would like to kind of go around here quickly, because I'm looking at the clock and realizing we're going to be running out of time here shortly. But I want each of you to share a strategy or two that you think companies should be using, if they aren't already, to help with recruitment and retention of talent. Jenae, let's start with you.
Sure. I think when you look at talent overall in Greater Des Moines, it's around 3 pillars. You have coordination, collaboration, Employers really leading on this because they're the end of the supply chain, and then really rethinking or being creative in terms of focusing on skills. I was meeting with a talent acquisition manager for a global company recently, and he shared with me something that struck me, and it was that you either have to go out and buy it or build it when it comes to talent, meaning you have to have competitive salaries, or you have to be very intentional with on-the-job training and providing that professional development opportunity. So I think as business leaders, focusing on short-term professional development for your employees, what can our employees do this year or even this quarter, along with long-term to help them advance within the organization and create those career pathways will serve your talent well. And really, if you want to be the employer of choice, you have to offer professional development opportunities now.
And Dave, what strategies do you think a company should be using to attract and retain talent in 2024?
In addition to the training development, professional development opportunities, we're seeing employers being more open than ever to people without college degrees, and bringing them in and training them up as part of that strategy. Intern programs have been a huge success, and I was talking to a CPA friend yesterday, and they're offering interns with 2 or 3 years left in their college job offers already once they graduate. And so trying that strategy was an interesting concept, but I understand why they're doing it, given the lack of talent in that market. And then just we're also seeing, employers have their job descriptions all laid out. They know what they want, but most are now open to hiring people without the exact experience. They're often getting them for less money, and they're able to build them into their system, get them trained, and creating hopefully a long-term employee out of that. So those are just a few of the thoughts.
And Kathy?
Yeah, I completely agree with Jenae and Dave. Those are absolutely things employers are doing, and they're having some success with that. I would also say I had a great conversation with a manufacturer recently, not necessarily in the Des Moines, central Des Moines area, but probably about 40 miles outside. As they were considering how they fill some of their open roles, they were really flexible about their shifts and how they reimagined how that work can be done. And so it doesn't have to be 8-hour, 10-hour shifts. Maybe it's 3 team members work 12-hour shifts and other team members work 4 10-hour days. Putting those together in those shifts and the work that needs to be done, putting those together in creative ways has really helped them as well. It's also opened up childcare spots in the region that allowed others to join the workforce. So I think that kind of flexibility and creativity, not just for their own workforce, but within their own community and in their own regions, has really driven some success as well. But certainly growing your own talent, considering work-based learning, considering apprenticeships, considering really every opportunity to develop that talent in-house is also probably going to be a key to that success.
Almardi, what's a strategy that you think a company should be using to attract and retain workers in 2024?
Yeah, I echo what Cassie said, and also I think it comes down to what employees are actually looking for and why employees leave jobs and go to another job. And I think by looking at that, by looking at it from that angle, I think you will have the solution or you have a clear path as to how we can create the strategies to enhance your retention policies. I think having a competitive salary and also flexibility, and also having career paths for employees. Actually, employees value a company that actually cares about them. They want to see themselves like in a position where the company actually cares and appreciate what they do in a daily basis. And they also want to see if there is any opportunity for growth. And if the company actually offer that, they need to show it. and actually let the employees know so that they don't look elsewhere for these opportunities. And I think employers are doing a lot nowadays, but I think just by focusing and being focused on this aspect, and by listening and getting feedback from their employees and creating plans with them, an employee will feel included. And also another aspect, also the company must also look at their workforce and also see, make sure it reflects the community that they serve or the community that they're in. Because as an employee, if I come in a company that I don't see anyone looks like me, then I may not actually stay there longer. And I think all of these aspects need to be taken into consideration as companies start to develop strategies for retention and hiring.
And Peter, bring it home for us. What's the strategy that companies should be using for 2024?
Well, Iowa, the quit rate is 32% higher than it was pre-pandemic average. For the US as a whole, it's 24%. And this has definitely been post-pandemic recovery where quits are part of the equation, because it's so easy for workers to switch from one firm to another without any stretch of unemployment. So to amplify what everybody else has said already, it's trying to figure out how to retain workers. And part of the equation has to be retraining workers that you already have to new tasks, because it's going to be real hard to go out in the labor market and find people who are going to fill that task any better than people you already have in place. I did want to say something to come back to your question on recession. In the 70s, we worried about stagflation, which was high unemployment and inflation. The most logical way the biggest supply chain problem we have is the labor market. And in Iowa, we have it worse than most places. And so the GDP growth in Iowa's averaged 0.3% per year in the post-pandemic recovery versus 2.2% for the US as a whole. We are not growing because we do not have enough workers. And I think one thing to think about is the fact that during the pandemic, immigration was basically shut down. We have 1.8 million fewer immigrants in the US than we would have had the pandemic not occurred. And 38% of the population growth in Iowa is immigrants. We've got to start growing our labor market, and it's not going to grow through the birth rate. So I think we have to think about a more open policies toward inviting people to Iowa.
All right. Well, thank you all of the panelists for participating today. Chris, I'll send it back to you.
Well, we're just about out of time, and so we're going to give you just a little preview of some things coming up in the coming weeks and months here before the end of the year, that if you enjoyed today's conversation, I know you'll enjoy these as well. On October 26th, so just next week, we have an in-person event at the Des Moines Heritage Center. We're going to be talking specifically about artificial intelligence. So if you like that little bit of a segue into that topic today, we're going to dive deeper into that with an entire event on the 26th. On November 1st, we've got our in-person annual Fearless event, a great opportunity for you to interact with women leaders from across the state and community. Going to be a great program. I've gotten a preview of some of our Fearless speakers. They're going to be sharing their stories with us. I know you're going to love those as well. On November 30th, we have our Project 515 event, and we're going to be talking about housing. And then on December 13th, we as a company, we are celebrating our 20th anniversary for DSM Magazine and the 40th anniversary for Business Record. We're really proud of that, of course. It's going to be a fun event. We'd encourage you to check that out as well. You can find out about all of those events at businessrecord.com/events. If you have story ideas, things that you want to reach out our way on, feedback on today, you can reach out my way. If you're interested in advertising opportunities, feel free to reach out to me, our new associate editor, Mike Mendenhall, who will be introducing to everybody here in the coming weeks. He's looking for story ideas as well. He'll be working with our team, so feel free to reach out his way. Again, I want to thank everybody for attending today. We too are a locally owned business, and we're working hard to navigate the same challenges here in this space as you are. So today was both informative for us. Michael is going to be working from here. He'll take the content from today. We'll have video, we'll have stories. So if you want to be sharing that with your team so that they can be using that, that's why we do what we do. Want to spend the last minute here just thanking again our HR Pro of the Year sponsor, Dentons Davis Brown, for helping make this day possible. And of course, a final congratulations to Jessica Meisner, this year's HR Pro of the Year. And lastly, to all of our panelists, thank you for taking the time today to be with us, to share your expertise, to help businesses here in the community have a better idea of what to be expecting as we all try to navigate the jobs landscape in the year to come. Thank you again for helping make today a great event. To our panelists, to our audience, I know you have a number of places you can be, so to spend it with us, we really appreciate that. Thank you, and if I can ever be of any help, or our team can ever be of help, feel free to reach out our way. Thank you and have a great afternoon.